Пиздец, охуенно.
Вот так у нас происходит в армии, бля, эвакуация.
Over the past week, Ukrainian defenders have been actively eliminating occupiers in Pokrovsk. More than a third of the city has been cleared of enemy forces, according to Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, on Facebook. Syrsky noted that he conducted another working trip to the Pokrovsk direction, where a meeting was held with commanders of military administrative bodies, as well as unit and sub-unit leaders. According to the general, the objectives remain unchanged: to defend Ukrainian positions, identify and destroy as many enemy personnel and equipment as possible, disrupt their logistics, and effectively counter the enemy in the air. We are blocking attempts to storm the city with small infantry groups. To this end, and to regain lost positions, certain units are conducting active operations. Over the past week, enemy searches and eliminations were carried out within approximately 11.5 square kilometers of Pokrovsk, he added. The total area of Pokrovsk is 29.7 square kilometers. Thus, 11.5 square kilometers represents over a third of the city's territory. Syrsky confirmed that due to heavy losses and the effective resistance of Ukrainian troops, Russia was forced to deploy its operational reserve in the Pokrovsk-Mir-Nohrad agglomeration. The aggressor is constantly trying to change the directions of its attacks here and is using a deceitful infiltration tactic, including disguising its fighters as civilians or using civilians as cover, he added. A separate topic during the meeting was strengthening units and coordinating the use of reserves. Special attention was given to ensuring the advance of Ukrainian assault troops. Syrsky noted that work continues on maintaining existing and establishing new logistical routes. We must ensure maximum support for our grouping and carry out timely medical evacuation of the wounded. We must not only hold positions but also preserve the lives and health of our defenders, the general clarified. Earlier today, November 27th, Russian President Vladimir Putin claimed that the Russian army had supposedly seized 70% of Pokrovsk. He also asserted that Ukrainian defenders had been cut off in the southern part of Mir-Nohrad. Meanwhile, Ukraine's 7th Air Assault Corps reported that Ukrainian soldiers are conducting raids and ambushes against the enemy troops in Pokrovsk. Ukrainian Air Force is very much active. A MiG-29 Mu-1 smashed a Russian command post to bits using high-precision French AAS-MHAMMER bombs. Ukrainian Air Force units are increasingly relying on Western-supplied precision-guided bombs to strike Russian troops with far greater accuracy and effect. These munitions allow Ukrainian aircraft to hit command posts, troop concentrations, and key logistics points from safer standoff distances. The result is a steady rise in targeted high-impact strikes that disrupt Russian movements, inflict heavy losses, and complicate any attempt to mass forces along the front. Igor Strelkov-Gherkin warns from his jail cell that Ukraine and the EU have no reason to accept the Dmitriev-Witkoff proposals to end the war, because Russia is currently incapable of inflicting a strategic defeat on Ukraine, despite local tactical victories. The imprisoned Gherkin has posted an analysis of the context of the 28-point plan. He says that he has not yet read the full content of the points, which our media modestly remained silent about. In a perspective which likely reflects that of powerful factions within the Russian security establishment, with which he has been closely linked, he sees the situation as overall negative for Russia, with the fiasco surrounding the plan hurting its own people's morale. As I expected, the EU and so-called Ukraine have decisively rejected a settlement that would require any territorial or other concessions right out of the gate, simply because things are going well for them, and they have absolutely no reason to fear a collapse of the front and military defeat in the coming months. Surely the fall of Kupiansk, one of the average district centers in the Kharkiv region, after a 6-year-long assassination, isn't a strategic defeat? Kiev and the EU capitals understand perfectly well that neither Kupiansk, nor Pokrovsk, nor even Orikhiv Huliaipole, and other towns and villages will bring the Russian armed forces a real victory, unless the Ukrainian armed forces are routed in their capture. And they have not been routed. And they cannot be routed in a situation where the Russian armed forces only have the forces for tactical operations, but the forces for strategic operations are either completely absent or insufficient for their successful implementation. After all, our army currently does not even have the forces for an effective occupation of even left bank Ukraine, even if, suddenly, the Ukrainian armed forces were to retreat across the Dnipro along its entire length. Therefore, the only real threat to the enemy is the moral breakdown of their own active army. When the mass of soldiers and commanders, the overwhelming majority, decide for themselves that victory is impossible, defeat is inevitable, and there is no longer any point in sacrificing their lives for all this. So far, apparently, this has not happened, and reports from the front confirm this. Yes, it seems some units and formations of the Ukrainian armed forces have become less resilient in combat. The percentage of ideologically motivated soldiers has fallen, and the number of prisoners and those willing to surrender has increased. But, overall, the enemy continues to fight very stubbornly and in the most dangerous areas, Kharkiv and Zaporizhia, fighting for every hill, every house, every forest stand, as a result of which our tactical successes there are minimal or non-existent. This means that for some time the Kyiv scum and their masters in Europe and the US have nothing to worry about. They can continue preparing for the intervention in a relatively calm manner, preparing for war seriously and thoroughly. What about us? Our military successes, albeit very limited, have superimposed on Trump's points, once again providing some illusion of a quick deal, though there's no sign of one, not just now, but in the medium term at all. I can note that the expectation of a quick peace has even penetrated the ranks of the convicted, although it is viewed with skepticism by virtually everyone who is truly capable of thinking. In this regard, the latest disappointment reduces society's already low motivation to steadfastly endure the hardships and privations of the special military operation. And these depressive moods will only grow, and the remnants of trust in the government, already very insignificant, will quickly evaporate. This, of course, will be contributed to not only by growing economic and, consequently, social problems, but also by escalating strikes, drones, and missiles from former respected partners, which our media stubbornly and foolishly ignore in more than 90% of cases, providing abundant grounds for the same growing distrust of the government and the masses' rejection of any official state propaganda. And this, in the context of a civil war, essentially, is the most dangerous thing of all. Even ordinary people, inexperienced in politics, already view the government with great skepticism, and tomorrow, as has already happened in the most tragic moments of our history, skepticism will give way to rejection, which enemies, not Putin's, the enemies of Russia and the Russian people, will certainly try to exploit. There is still time to change the situation. But for positive change to occur, super efforts are already necessary, which are in no way contained within the hardened framework of a semi-war period and are completely impossible without radical personnel changes in the leadership of the special military operation, industry, the ideological sphere, and, very important, foreign policy initiatives. If nothing changes, we face a catastrophe, and one that our state, in its previous historical form, may not survive. It'll be fine. Just yell if anything happens. An interesting method of evacuating a wounded soldier by the Russians. I wonder if they used reinforced duct tape or the regular kind. The video has subtitles.
Пиздец, охуенно.
Вот так у нас происходит в армии, бля, эвакуация.
Да.
Телефон!
Да заебал уже за телефон свой думаю.
Взял.
Все нормально будет.
Если что, кричи, да?
Если что, кричи. Давай, Виталий. Напишешь.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comments section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.